All right. Welcome, everybody. We'll go ahead and get started here in a little bit. We'll just have people trickle in. One thing I always like doing is just want to know where everybody's from. Usually when we do these webinars, we have a nice global audience. So tell me where you're from, just in the chat. I'm in San Mateo, California. And then we'll kick this off in about 1 or 2 minutes. Welcome, everybody. For those just joining, chat is disabled. Veronica, would you be able to see if you can add that? We might not need it. If not, that's okay. I see people raising their hand. You can put it in the Q&A. Shoot, I think we have a setting where we didn't click the chat, but that's okay. We'll have to skip that for now. If you do have questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A, and I'll try to get to as many of those as I can at the end of the webinar. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. All right. Can everybody see this? Okay. Maybe put it as like a question for now, just so I can see that you guys can see it. Okay. I think we're good to go. All right. So today we're going to be talking about how to maximize your exit. So what buyers need to see before making offers. We're going to be going over some key topics such as how buyers access deals, key financials and documents to prepare before you go live on acquire.com. This one is especially important because when you're listing your business with us, buyers are looking at dozens of different businesses per day, and doing everything you can to make your business easy to assess by buyers is absolutely critical. How to position to attract different buyers from financial acquirers to strategic acquirers. I'm also going to be going over top red flags to avoid, things that can just kill your exit, can slow things down, and really just make an acquisition never happen. So things you definitely want to avoid. And then how to drive demand and just the importance of competition, meaning I always like to say if you have one buyer, you have no buyers. So how do you get extra competition into your deal? How do you leverage multiple buyers to your advantage? So super excited about that topic. In terms of acquire.com, for those of you that aren't familiar with us, we've been in business about 5 years. On our platform today, we have about 500,000 registered buyers. We've done acquisitions in 85 different countries. We've closed over 500 million in closed transactions. And then today on the marketplace, if you're looking to acquire business, we have over 2,000 different listings with over a total billion in combined revenue. And then we've closed over 500 acquisitions in 2024. So tons of activity. I always like to say we're just getting started. And then in terms of myself, my name is Andrew Gazdecki. I am the CEO and founder of acquire.com. In my prior careers, I built and sold multiple different startups. One was a no-code, do-it-yourself mobile app builder called Business Apps. I scaled that business to about 10 million in recurring revenue, and that was acquired by a private equity firm. And then after that, I decided to start a cryptocurrency exchange for some reason, and that was acquired by a strategic buyer, B&K to the future. And then today I just help founders exit their businesses easier and smoother than previously in the past. And again, on this webinar, I'm really going to be going over the playbook on getting acquired, really some things to include in every single listing on Acquire, how to maximize interest from buyers, and huge mistakes that I've seen countless times so you can avoid those. So why does this matter? Why should you care? Well, the most important thing to note is if you do these certain things, the startup that you have isn't going to have potential buyers. You're not going to get acquired. And why most startups don't sell, either I see them priced too high, meaning they have a sky high valuation. It's not grounded in reality. This one can be easily avoided by just referencing some of the materials and data that we put together at acquire.com that includes all of the multiples for all of the acquisitions that we saw close in 2024. But again, when you price too high, you signal to buyers that you're not serious about getting a deal done. And it stalls out all the conversations. The next one would just be financials are a mess. If a buyer can't quickly assess the health of your business, it's going to be a really slow process. You're not going to get things off on the right foot, and everything stalls, and then deals don't go through. And then no plan, meaning you go live on acquire.com. You don't have any idea of how to speak with buyers or things that they're expecting to see. And that, again, puts you on the wrong foot, gives buyers the wrong first impression, and quickly stalls the acquisition process. And then no prep as well, meaning you don't put together the proper materials. You don't have a clean P&L that buyers can quickly read. You haven't put together really any materials to get buyers excited about your business. And so today I'm going to be going over those things to make sure that doesn't happen to you. So here's some common seller mistakes that I see all the time, and I just touched on them a little bit, but I'm going to go over them in more detail. So these will kill your deal before an LOI is even sent. So the goal here and what I really want to get across is these are all the things that you need to put together or not do to receive offer from buyers. So right at the top is going to be an unrealistic valuation. This is pricing too high. It immediately scares off buyers because, again, you got to understand the competition of different deals that you're competing against may be priced within realistic ranges. It signals to buyers that you're really not serious about selling your business. So definitely think through valuation really well and have a valuation that you can really defend with buyers. That's absolutely key. You need to be able to say, I got to this valuation because I read this or because my business is growing XYZ or we're profitable. Whatever it may be, have a valuation grounded in reality. The next is going to be messy financials. If a buyer can't trust your numbers, it's going to be really hard to build that confidence for them to actually want to buy your business. Having unclear operations, just not being able to clearly state who's running the business, how does this business operate without you at the helm? What does the business look like as it's transitioned over? These things are really, really important to buyers because they don't want to essentially acquire a headache or a business that's going to need a ton of fixing or just simply won't run without you involved. So the next one is going to be no transition plan. This means essentially you haven't really thought through what does this exit look like to a new buyer? What services are included? What does customer support look like? How many customer support tickets are being answered each day? What does marketing look like? Really allowing buyers to wrap their head around the business inside and out is critical to building that confidence for a buyer to say, hey, this is a good acquisition opportunity. I want to submit an offer. The last one could arguably be the most important. This would just be slow responses. I think a lot of founders that I work with don't understand that when you're selling your business, you have to sell your business, meaning you have to reach out to buyers quickly. You have to be available to answer their questions. You have to set up calls for buyers to get to know you and begin to trust you and get excited about your business. Remember, when you're selling your business, you are in sales. So the more responsive you are getting back to buyers, the quicker everything moves. And there's a saying that time kills deals, and that couldn't be any more true. So make sure don't do any of this. These are just a quick common seller mistakes, and I've seen every single one derail an acquisition. So now moving on, how do buyers think? It's important to remember that buyers aren't just looking at revenue, they're looking for profitability, meaning is this going to make them money? Or put another way, are you selling a liability or are you selling an asset? An asset is a business that generates revenue for the buyer. They're able to see a clear return on investment from the acquisition. A liability is typically a business that's losing money. It's burning cash every single month. There's no clear path to a return on investment for a buyer. So if your business is losing money, your startup is burning money month over month, it doesn't have a clear line of profitability, that's something I highly recommend changing before you go to market. And then stability. Is revenue predictable or is it really lumpy? Is it up and down every single month? Almost every buyer is going to want to be able to just predict out into the future how this revenue is going to perform. If you have monthly recurring revenue or customers on contracts, that's the highest bar. But if you have lumpier revenue that maybe spikes in a certain season or comes in sporadically every other month or something like that, that's definitely something to address and potentially fix before going to market as well. Scalability. Can they grow this business? Meaning, is it very manual to deliver the products and services? Could your company potentially handle 100 or 1,000 new customers within the first month after the acquisition? All buyers are looking for a business that they could potentially grow. And so if there's just things about the business or the business model that makes it extremely unscalable, that's not going to be an attractive acquisition opportunity. And then lastly is just ease of transition. Can they take over the business without any major headaches? Meaning, are you heavily involved in the day-to-day operations? Does the buyer need to have you on board for a long period of time? These are all things that are going to just reduce the amount of interest that you get from buyers. And then also, if you do find a buyer, it could lower your valuation, meaning if it's not really profitable, but it could be, that's something you should fix. If the revenue isn't that predictable, maybe churn is really high. If you're able to fix that before going to market, that's huge. Scalability, meaning the business just isn't really growing or it's stalled or potentially declining. Fixing that before going to market can really make things a lot easier. And then ease of transition. If you're currently doing everything in your business and there's really not much that you're transferring over to a buyer and everything falls apart without you in it, that's definitely something to address as well before going to market. And this is what buyers really want. Almost every buyer that I work with is looking for, a profitable business with predictable revenue, easy to run, a room to grow, meaning clear margins, there's no hidden debt. This is a business that month after month, it is generating profits for the existing owner, and then that makes it a great asset for a new potential buyer to acquire. Predictable revenue, again, buyers want to be able to really understand what is revenue going to be like in 12 months from now or even 1 month from now. And if it's really hard to predict that revenue, you're not going to get nearly as much buyer interest. Easy to run. If it's a very complicated business, maybe servicing the customers is very manual, it requires a specific type of expertise. These are also businesses that are generally really, really hard to sell. And then lastly, room to grow, meaning opportunities for the buyer to scale it up or potentially grow. Maybe there's, sales opportunities. Maybe there's marketing channels that haven't been explored or something like that. Having all of these in a row will make just the experience with selling to buyers it's day and night. When we work with a profitable SaaS business with really healthy margins, the revenue is recurring, the churn is low. It's a rather simple business, meaning it targets a niche. It's been in business for a couple years, longer than that. So you can really be confident that this revenue isn't necessarily growing anywhere overnight. And there's some channels that necessarily haven't been stood up yet, meaning maybe the business isn't very active on social media. Maybe organic rankings have been overlooked or something like that, where there's clearly some room to grow the business further. Those businesses sell extremely fast on acquire.com. That is a perfect fit for the buyers that we currently work with. And these are also things that you can think through today on how you could best position your business to be acquired later. Here's what buyers don't care about. This is stuff I hear all the time from different founders, and for good reason too. I completely understand. But when you're selling a business, you need to really put yourself in a buyer's shoes and understand how they think and things that they're looking for if you want a successful acquisition. The first one would just be potential, meaning this business could grow to XYZ million with the right person doing the right things or something like that. The first response I have to that is, well, buyers aren't paying for future execution. They're paying for the execution that's been accomplished right now. So potential is great, but if there's no proof behind that, meaning these things aren't realistic to achieve, it tends to fall on deaf ears. Your emotional attachment to the business, meaning every founder, when they build a business, you do get emotionally attached because it's essentially your baby. But for a buyer, they don't necessarily care that much in terms of this is why they should value the business a certain way, or you put X, Y, Z amount of time into the business. Again, buyers are going to be very non-emotional about the view into the business. And again, really focusing on what's been accomplished today or the past, couple of years building the business, rather than, how hard you've worked to build it, or how long you've built to build it, or even how much money it costs to build it. That's a big surprise to a lot of entrepreneurs I work with is, I spent $200,000 or $500,000 to build this business. So it should be worth, multiple of what I paid and the time I spent building this business. But unfortunately, that's just not how most buyers operate. The next one is just a big audience with no revenue, meaning if you have channels, let's say the company has, 50,000 social media followers or a newsletter list of, XYZ amount. If there's no revenue attached to those generally aren't that attractive. If you do have a path to showing how they could be utilized, that could be more interesting. But again, this kind of falls under vanity metrics. Unproven future metrics. This is definitely sometimes a deal killer. It can just really show buyers that you aren't really realistic about the value of the business and how this is going to be evaluated. Meaning this business in 3 years could be doing tens of millions in revenue because my XYZ competitor is doing tens of millions of revenue. Projections like that, they don't really make sense, and they don't get buyers excited at all. And lastly, at the bottom, buyers pay for real revenue, not what could happen someday. So it's really good to focus on what you can really show that's been executed, and rather just the potential of the business without strong proof behind that. And then moving into the due diligence checklist. So buyers are going to request these before making an offer. So definitely have them ready. Right at the top is going to be a P&L statement. So just an accurate way to show buyers the financial health of your business. This can be put together by yourself or an accountant if you have one, or a bookkeeper. This is one of the best ways to just build goodwill with buyers and show that you put this together specifically for a buyer to understand what are you spending, what is your expenses on monthly, how does your revenue trend month to month, what kind of services are used to operate the business, just so you can quickly wrap your head around the business and make an assessment if this business is in really good shape or if it needs some work. But again, being able to just clearly show the true financial health of your business is almost a non-starter if you're not able to do that. Being able to show things like customer and revenue data So this is things like churn, retention, customer lifetime value, your monthly recurring revenue, annual recurring revenue. Also showing things like our customers on monthly contracts or yearly contracts, just a good understanding of how is the revenue data trending. How does the business operate in terms of our customers saying they really love the product, or are they canceling? Obviously, if they're canceling, you're going to have to, explain a little bit around that. Why are they canceling? But just not having this information, again, is kind of a non-starter. And then number 3 would be team and operational setup. Who's running what? So how big is the team? How does each department work, such as marketing or customer support or sales or product development? You could just put together, a small, 1-by-1 page or a small presentation just outlining how do each of these departments function, how much time is spent in each. You as the founder, you as the owner of the business, it's really important to outline what does your day-to-day look like. This can be a huge time saver when meeting with buyers, because that's going to be a key question, meaning if you don't stay within the business, how is this business going to be operated by a new owner? What does that look like? Because essentially, are they going to be acquiring a job, or is there a team in place that can run everything for you? And then next would be contractors and then supplier agreements. So any long-term risk, meaning are there any just key parts of the business that are going to be reliant on a third-party company? And what does that contract look like? For example, there was a SaaS acquisition I was working on recently where they were using third-party data to essentially deliver insights into visitor analytics. And that contract with the supplier was going to be expiring soon. And because of that, they had to go and renew that contract just so the new owner, when they acquired the business, they could have the same relationship and the product and the service would operate just as it was with the existing owner. So just having all these things in place and thinking about this before you start meeting with buyers is absolutely critical. Because imagine a meeting with a buyer where you have a clean P&L put together, you have your customer and revenue data. Let's say you have your ChartMogul metrics connected to your acquire.com listing dashboard. So buyers can see this beautiful dashboard into your annual recurring revenue and your customer churn and see how revenue is trending. You've documented your team and your operational setup, and so they can understand what does the day-to-day look like? What is the composition of the team? And then you also have all of your contractors and key supplier agreements put out in an organized fashion. And then you've also organized just and outline your marketing channels and your growth strategy. Meeting with buyers will just go so much smoother because they're able to quickly understand the business, get excited about it. But it really shows that you put thought into the acquisition process, and you really show buyers that you're looking to get a deal done, and buyers will recognize that and move faster because of it. So when it comes to marketing channels and growth strategy, just outlining how do you acquire customers? Are there any channels that you're spending a lot of money in? Are there channels that are maybe completely free, like organic search or social media, whatever it may be, just outlining how does this business grow and what are some opportunities for a new buyer to potentially double down on to continue growing the business. And next would be how to think like a buyer. So just imagine this. If you were buying a business, what would you want to see? Again, it's predictable revenue. It's no major red flags. It's having a smooth transition with minimal headaches. And your job when you're selling your business is, again, to sell your business. So making it really easy for buyers to say yes and move towards an offer. So understanding these things is absolutely critical. And here's what a great listing on acquire.com looks like. And I've seen, probably 10,000 plus different startup listings on acquire.com. And here's the ones that just really stand out to me. And I put just 4 things here. So clear financials. I keep saying this over and over and over because it is so important to have a way for buyers to just quickly assess the financial health of your business. You can do this by putting together a P&L. You can connect your financial metrics depending on the size. But this one is absolutely key. Nothing derails an acquisition conversation faster than numbers that don't add up. There's no easy way to get this information, and buyers kind of feel like they have to pull this information out of you. So clear financials is absolutely huge. No vague revenue claims. Just a professional P&L and metrics connected is huge. And then a compelling story. Why is the business worth buying? What problem does it solve? Why did you start the business? Why are you selling it? These are questions that every single buyer is going to ask. So having them stated upfront to save everybody time is massive. And then number 3 here is an introductory video where you can build trust fast. So this would be, I think, just a 5-minute video where you're going over your product, you're outlining why you started the business, how do you acquire customers, who is this for, why are you selling the company, what does an ideal buyer look like? Sometimes bonus points where you outline things that aren't necessarily going great in the business, or things, essentially the red flags that are already there that you know the buyer will probably find out about them anyway. Being upfront about them and addressing them before anything else, I think just builds so much trust in an acquisition. And it's just a great way to really speed up the initial call. So instead of answering these questions on the first call, you can dive into more specific or pointed questions on the first call. And then pricing that makes sense. So this would be a realistic valuation, meaning you've done your homework, you've looked at average multiples for similar businesses in your market, you've looked at the Acquire.com valuations report, and your valuation makes sense. It's within ranges that most buyers are looking to acquire businesses. And all this together will really just get a lot of different buyers interested and speed everything up. And then lastly, showcase a strong Acquire.com listing with key insights. So this would be really highlighting parts of your business on your Acquire.com listing that may be unique or metrics that you're proud of. For example, we work with some businesses that maybe you have, 5,000 plus customers in 50 different countries. Maybe you have 100,000 users on your platform. Maybe you've been featured in different press articles, just things that really stand out to get buyers excited. Because again, when you're selling your business and you're looking to get acquired, you are in sales. And so really getting buyers excited by highlighting the best parts of your business within your Acquire.com listing is massive. And it's really easy to do too. Okay, moving to the must-have financials. So again, I keep saying this over and over, but buyers, they absolutely want clarity. They don't want confusion. They don't want to feel like they have to pull information out of you. They want to be able to get answers quickly in terms of, is this business worth acquiring, or is this not something that's going to be a fit for them? So P&L, revenue breakdown. So by product, service, customer type, meaning if you have monthly plans or yearly plans, or you have different products or different services or different customer types, break all those down so a buyer can understand where most of the revenue is coming from, which product, which service, which customer plan are most of your paying customers signing up for, and then your expenses as well. I like to break these down in two parts, meaning what's essential and then what's optional. So what is absolutely needed to run the business? What are some services that maybe a new buyer won't necessarily need to sustain the business day to day, but would be nice to have? Really having a plan that a new buyer could essentially take and understand quickly and say, hey, this is, an outline of how the business could look with a new acquirer. And the growth trends year over year, month over month. How is the business trending? Is it rapidly growing? Is it fairly stable and profitable? Is it declining? Making that really, really easy and simple to understand is huge. And at the bottom, I wrote, if your numbers are messy, definitely clean them up first. This little bit of prep work can just save you so much time in terms of having, low interest from buyers, meetings that really aren't going well. You want to, again, make it really easy for buyers to get excited about your business, quickly see why this is worth acquiring. So those initial meetings with interested parties just go a lot smoother. And then I always like to say storytelling is such a big part of sales, and your business's story, it matters. It definitely matters, and it will resonate with buyers too. Buyers will go beyond just the numbers. They'll essentially buy a narrative as well, because they want to know who's behind the business. Why did you start it? How does it run? What makes it successful? Why do customers love it? What do they not like about it? And then why are you selling? What is the reason for looking for an acquisition? Have you moved on to something new? Are you burnt out? Are you just looking to cash in your chips? Have you been running the business for a long period of time and you like to take a break? Being open and honest and just expecting these questions is absolutely massive with buyers. And then how could the business potentially grow if you were to sell the business and a new operator was to step in? Really just outlining all these things can be huge, and keep it short, honest, and focus on really what makes the business valuable. Because again, I'm going to keep saying this, but when you're looking to sell your business, you are absolutely in sales. So instead of trying to get an investor to invest in the business, to own a little piece of the business, you're trying to get someone to buy the whole thing. So helping them understand, why you started it and get excited about when you started it and why you started it can make all the difference. So I talked about this one earlier, the power of an intro video. So this is why listings with videos get more offers. It definitely builds trust. There's such a huge aspect of trust in acquisitions, and being able to introduce yourself, your background, why did you start the company? Why do customers love this business? How does the product work? What makes the product unique? How long did it take to build the product? What are some parts of the product that you're exceptionally proud of? What are just some unique parts of just the company as a whole? How is the company structured? This gives buyers just an immediate understanding of what they're potentially acquiring. It builds trust, and you definitely get a lot more interest from buyers on Acquire.com when this is available. It shows confidence in your business, meaning you're able to speak articulately about why buyers should be excited, things that they should definitely be looking at closer. It helps you stand out from the competition. Again, buyers are looking at dozens of different buyers every single day. And so everything that you can do to help your your business stand out compared to all of those other businesses makes all the difference. And you can record this in 10 minutes. It's super easy to do. You can download Loom, you can screen record yourself and start on your company's website, go over the pricing page, go over the About Us page or the features page or just the home page, whatever you got, log into the product, show how it works, the most common features, walk through maybe the onboarding, and talk about the business like you would just to a friend, make it very casual. Again, just going over the basics of why you started, who it's for. You don't have to overthink it. You can do it in, 1 or 2 minutes, go up to 5. Super easy to do and will have a huge impact on just the experience with buyers. And then in terms of how to price your business smart, so you want to price it based on real revenue and profit. So typically a revenue multiple is going to be applied when the business is growing really, really fast. So generally over 50% year over year, all of the revenue is being invested back into the business to grow it. And then typically what we see is a multiple of 1.5 to 4 times net profit for most online businesses. So this is the range that typically most buyers are looking to acquire businesses in. If you go beyond this range, typically what we see is you lose a lot of different buyer interest because some buyers will just have notifications set for this multiple range on acquire.com. Once you go outside of it, they may never even see your business at all. And one thing you could always do too is you can set the valuation a little lower than normally, and then you get a lot of buyer interest. You get a lot of buyer interest from that, and then you see a number of different offers come in. And then from there, you're able to negotiate the valuation upwards to essentially maximize acquisition. But again, when you price really high, you can lower the initial interest from the onset. When you do that, that leads to less offers and then a lower final price and less better terms. So creating that competition by pricing your business within reality is absolutely key. And then I also recommend looking at just similar businesses on acquire.com. There's literally 1,000 plus businesses on Acquire today. You can browse the marketplace. You can see similar businesses, look at their listings, see how they're positioning themselves. How are they valuing their business? And understand that's going to be your main competition. So pricing accurately and realistically is going to be key. And again, at the bottom is biggest mistake, overpricing, buyers skip overpriced businesses. So price within a realistic range and you'll be good to go. The must-have documents, clean P&L, customer retention stats, SOPs for smooth handoff, growth plus marketing metrics, legal plus supplier contracts. And again, these just make the buyer's life so much easier in terms of understanding your business, things that they essentially need to get to an offer. Without these things, call one is going to be asking for these things. Then you're going to put it together. It's going to take, a few days, then you get it back to the buyer. So right there, you just lost a few days and you didn't necessarily, make the best first impression. So get ahead of that. Put all these things together before going live on acquire.com. Again, this will just make the lives of buyers so much easier. And then it really allows you to maximize the initial interest that you're going to get. So here's one of my favorite topics, how to attract multiple buyers. More demand leads to better offers. It's really that simple. You want to create competition with your acquisition process. And the number one way to do this is to have multiple different buyers interested at one time. This allows you to control the valuation and the terms and really be more selective about who you eventually sell to. And if you don't have multiple buyers, that's entirely fine. But this is always what you should strive for when you're selling your business. So list your business with clear financials and growth potential. Again, really just making it easy for a buyer. You want to engage with buyers quickly. Again, understanding that you are in a sales process where the faster you move, the faster that buyers are going to be able to move. And it's going to make just the outcome that much better. And then be transparent. Buyers absolutely will always walk away from surprises. The thought process there is if there's one mistake or one thing that they don't understand or doesn't add up, there could be multiple other things. And it just slows down the process too. And so be transparent. Be upfront about the bumps and bruises in your business. Every business has them, and just anticipate it too. Anticipate, what buyers are going to ask ahead of time. And so this is going to allow buyers to just fully wrap their head around the business, make it easy for them, and you'll be in extremely good shape. And here's red flags that kill deals. So pretty much the opposite of everything that I've been saying in terms of how to really maximize interest for buyers. The first at the top is going to be messy or incomplete financials. Again, if it doesn't make sense, then buyers are going to immediately start asking, what else could there be in this business? Or is this just going to take too much time to really assess the health of this business? Inconsistent revenue, meaning big drops, they definitely raise concerns. So make sure that your revenue is as predictable as possibly can. If churn is really high, try and get that under control before going to market. Legal or compliance issues, just things that just might appear as just an added headache if this acquisition went through. And then lastly, unclear transition plan, meaning it's really hard for buyers to wrap their head around what this business looks like post-acquisition, or it's just not feasible to acquire the business, meaning once they buy it, you potentially leave, the business falls apart. You want to really outline a clear plan with buyers on what they can expect post-acquisition. So definitely fix these before listing on acquire.com. And here's how to respond to buyers. So once you list on acquire.com, you're going to have dozens of different buyers reach out, and they're going to be interested in learning more. They're going to have some pointed questions. Some are going to want to set up meetings, and how you respond to these buyers is absolutely critical. And so you want to be fast, you want to be honest, you want to be clear as well. So have your financials and metrics ready, answer questions with 24 hours, and then have confidence in your business. Again, I can't stress this enough, but this is an active sale process where you need to give buyers a reason to want to acquire your business. And a big part of that is preparation. A big part of that is being responsive. And if you do those things, then you will be able to increase the amount of interest you see from buyers. And the more interest, the more offers, and the more you're able to maximize your exit. And then, so what happens after you receive an LOI? If you do all this correctly, if you properly prepare, if you're responsive with buyers, you put yourself in buyers' shoes and understand what they're going to be looking at in your business, you've really pulled out the things for them to get excited. You ran a proper sales process, meaning you responded to every buyer promptly. You met with buyers. You got to a point where they were interested, and you simply asked, what else would you need to see from me to potentially make an offer? You're going to get to a point where you receive an offer. So what happens after that? You're going to go through something called due diligence. That's essentially a period where a buyer is going to inspect everything about your business and really verify all the claims that you had made during the initial process is accurate and true. And then once you get past that, you're going to move into negotiations towards what we call a purchase agreement. And then that's going to move into escrow, and then starting with transition planning. So also understanding these aspects as well. And these are things that we help with at acquire.com as well. But first things first, and that's really preparing your business, anticipating what buyers are going to look at. And then you'll successfully get here, and you'll be one step closer to getting acquired. Final takeaway here is, if you're ready to think about an acquisition, maybe you have been for a while, start getting your financials and documents in order. Create a listing on acquire.com. It's really easy to do. We're happy to answer any questions or give feedback on things that are potentially missing, or how to best position yourself with buyers. And then start getting prepared for buyer questions and list your business today. We can also help with a free valuation at acquire.com. Just reach out. All right. I hope everybody enjoyed that. I'm going to go through and answer a few questions here in the chat, and then send everybody on their way. How was that? I think that went a little longer than I anticipated. All right. Okay. So right at the top, how do businesses fail to sell, and how do I avoid that? This one, there's a bunch of different reasons. Some businesses just aren't necessarily sellable, meaning they go to market, they're declining in revenue, churn is really high, extremely reliant on the owner, no documents are put together, really hard to understand how the business is performing. Buyers feel like they're pulling everything out of the founder. Founder isn't responsive. So doing the opposite of all that will put you in a much better spot. Okay, which financial documents matter most to buyers? I would say definitely a P&L broken out by month. If you were to put together just one document, I would highly, highly recommend that one right there. Next, how can I attract buyers if my revenue is inconsistent? I would say just being upfront about that. What is the reason for the revenue being inconsistent? If it's a seasonal business, it's a seasonal business. There's really not much you can do there. You can obviously try to change the business model or how you attract customers. But if that's the reality of the business, it's entirely fine. It will be harder to find a buyer, but just being open and transparent about how the business operates, how customers are, signing up for the product or the service, and what are the reasons for that. And then moving on, what should I include in a transition plan to make a handoff smooth? Just outlining a week-to-week plan post-acquisition, meaning will you be available for post-acquisition support? If so, what would you recommend that you focus on? Helping a buyer understand the different departments required to run the company, meaning a big one is customer support. How are customer support tickets answered? Do you currently have anyone on your team that does that? Are you currently doing it? Another one would just be acquiring new customers. How are they currently being acquired? Is it inbound marketing? Is it a social media strategy, whatever it may be, just including what does it look like to operate this business, and how are you essentially going to help? Meaning, what services are involved? And when I say services, I mean, are there different support applications that you use that don't need to be transferred over? Is it a simple Shopify app where you're going to transfer the Shopify application and then it uses XYZ to send emails and uses XYZ for help desk ticketing? Just a plan of all the assets you're going to transfer over, all the things that you're going to focus on post acquisition. That's a huge start right there. And then you could work out the details as well prior to receiving an offer or even in due diligence. But just having that ahead of time is huge and really helps buyers just, again, wrap their head around the business and get excited. How do I use my business's story to stand out? Yeah, it's a great question. Every buyer wants to understand, why did you start the business in the first place? What was that, burning problem that you saw and you just had to solve it? Why should a buyer care about these things? What is the opportunity today in your business? Where is the upside? What gets you excited about the business right now? And if you were to stay in the business for the next, year, where would you focus? So just that unique story, that everyone has a unique story, and being able to just bring that out should make every business stand out. How can I attract multiple buyers to spark the competition? Attracting multiple buyers. So when you go live on acquire.com, you typically will receive 50 to 70, sometimes 100 plus NDAs from buyers. So reaching out to them, scheduling meetings, taking questions. This is a good tip. There's a document I recommend everyone on the acquire.com platform to have, and it's a living Q&A document. What that means is every question that you receive from a buyer, put it in a Google Doc and share that with all the other buyers. And what that does is it gives them more information about the acquisition opportunity. Buyers typically always ask really, really good questions. And if one buyer asks it, then another buyer might be thinking it. And over time, just keep populating that document of all the questions from all the other buyers. And that right there starts to create competition, because other buyers can see that there's other buyers involved, and you're also sharing different information with different buyers where maybe they signed an NDA and they never reached out to schedule a meeting. You're able to follow up with a relevant document that gives them more information on why they should be excited. Then they want to meet with you, and so on and so forth. So essentially being prepared, really being responsive, and then having valuable follow-ups with buyers, I think is a good response there. Okay, last question here, and then okay, let's see. How do I make my business easy to run if it relies on key people or systems? So if with key people, with systems in place, it should be easy to run. But I would say just documenting everything, meaning how do these SOPs work? What marketing systems you have, what customer support systems you have, just documenting everything, and consider creating like a small, operational wiki where it's just a portal. It could just be Google Docs where you just outline the key procedures for every part of the business. So as a buyer, you can really wrap your head around all of this quickly. And if they were to step in as a new owner, they won't have just questions about literally every single process within the business. All right. Well, how did that go, everybody? Feel free to poke in the chat, and I'll take a peek there before I get out of here. There's one question here. I've heard SaaS businesses especially can sell for multiples of its annual recurring revenue. It's definitely true. I think there's a big misconception in just valuations with startups and profitable businesses. If typically with SaaS businesses, when you see valuations, they're growing 100, 200%, year over year. And if that's the case, there is no profit to have any other multiple. And that's where you're going to see a typical annual recurring revenue multiple. If it's a profitable business, that's going to have a profit multiple. Growth is slower. Maybe it's kind of flat. It's maybe 10, 20% year over year. That's going to have a net profit multiple rather than annual recurring revenue or just a straight revenue multiple. My business was built around a personal brand. Now I'm pivoting that. Do I still need 24 months of P&L? Yeah, the longer you can show, like for P&L, just think of as long as you've been in operations, meaning if you've only been around for 16 months, then show 16 months. If you've been around 4 years, show 4 years. Standard is 36 months. So the more you can show, the better. But I wouldn't do like 12 months if you've been in business like for 3 years or anything like that. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Definitely hope this was helpful in terms of how to get acquired. The acquire.com team is here to help. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Support at acquire.com. We'd be happy to answer any questions about listing your business or just moving things along if you have questions. And again, thanks everybody for joining. I'll be back in probably 2 weeks for another webinar. And until then, keep building. Thanks everybody.